I'm going to be breaking down the team setup that makes my brands millions monthly. I'm going to be breaking down into 3 different phases based off the revenue that you're at. Now, once give or take, these are different revenue thresholds. This will progress as you kind of go through these different, growth phases and different revenue, call it brackets, if you will. But what's important here is to take the overall structure and change it up with what you need. The important part here is that you understand the systems and the team structure and org chart in general that we have for each phase, that at least I did with my brand, each phase, to get to where we are now. Now, just to show you, you can see the last 60 days, we did 3.83 million. If I go last 30 days, 1.7, which is actually down from 2.13 the 30 days previous to that. So we're doing about 2 million a month at the moment, or just about 20 million a year. So with that being said, let's get into phase 1. So phase 1, I put as 100K to 500K per month. Once again, these are very broad and these will change as you go through, and I'll break it down more or less. But in phase 1, you essentially have you'd end up getting a head of ops, which at this stage, 100K to 500K, in most cases will be you until the end of the 500K per month, threshold. Then you'll have a couple agencies you'll work with, typically 1 creative strategist, and then video editors and graphic designers and a content manager in there. Now, at the most basic level, when you're on the lower end of this threshold of 100K to 500K plus per month, it'll typically just be you. This will be you as well. You'll probably have 1 CS agent, 1 VA, no creative strategist. This will also be you. Probably 1 video editor, 1 maybe part-time graphic designer, and probably a Google and email agency. The important parts in phase 1 that I want to mention here is I highly, highly recommend going with a Google and email agency, not going in-house. Okay. Reason being, at this phase, for you to go from the 100K or 200K-ish on that starting level to the 500K plus, you need your focus to be on the highest level activities in your business. And this is going to typically be around maximizing LTV, or your subscription take rate, maximizing your AOV, and then increasing the quality of your creative output, and then increasing the overall output, right? You shouldn't be spending your time on Google and email and SMS. For you to train and get good enough at this stage, it's going to take you a long, long time, versus getting an agency will get you to 80% of what you need in the first 30 to 60, 90 days and take it off of your hands from there. So I'd absolutely recommend going the agency route for Google, email, and SMS in this phase. Now, the other important part is as you start scaling up from 100K to 200, then 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, etc., the next additions will be, once again, from 1 CS agent to probably 2, and then adding a VA to just take kind of admin and random tasks here or there off of your hands. Going from 1 video editor to 2 video editors, probably still a part-time graphic designer, unless for whatever reason your product and your niche, photo ads just absolutely crush for you, then that'll be a bigger part. If so, you probably have that part-time or full-time. Okay. Eventually, you should hire a creative strategist before the content manager, because the creative strategist will also take over the sourcing of content at the start. Then when you need to increase output further, you need to free up more time from the creative strategist that they spend on sourcing content, pass it on to somebody else, hence the content manager. This way the creative strategist can output more briefs. Okay? In general, that's how that progression typically looks. Now, don't overcomplicate it. In this phase, if you're in this range, you're probably thinking, oh, but do I have to hire them part-time or full-time? And how do I have to hire them? Well, how hiring is a completely different conversation. If you want to learn more, there's a link in the description where you're giving away free consulting calls, a few of them. There's a link there that'll show you why we're giving away a couple of these for free. But if you want to book right away, there's a link there as well. There's no pitch. We're just going to give you value, give you the next steps. If you want to learn more how we can work together at the end of the call, you let us know. If not, we won't even mention it. We'll just give you free value. So that's in the description. And we can kind of go more into answering your questions around this stuff. But in general, don't overcomplicate it. People always, ruminate on for 3 months or 6 months even. For me, I waited like 6 months before hiring a creative strategist, because you're like, do I need to do part-time or full-time, or it's expensive? And all these hires will be expensive for you. However, you need to understand, to go from 100K, 200K a month to 300, 400, 500 and beyond, you need to reinvest into your brand and your business, specifically the team, because this is going to be the highest leverage hires you end up doing is people. Yes, you can do softwares, you can do more ad spend, you can invest more content, all these things you're going to have to do, but the highest leverage you're going to get is actually just from hiring and finding good people for your team. So if you're watching this, and I'm talking to you or my past self, probably about 2 years ago when I waited 6 months to decide to hire a creative strategist, just test it. Put aside a budget for 90 days of what it would cost you to hire the person. If you can go the 90 days and pay that money, and let's just assume you got no return back and they were just terrible, even though you fired them before the 90 days, worst case scenario, you keep them for the full 90 days, you pay them everything, and they're terrible. If you can afford that just fine, just test it, okay? Don't overthink it. You have a 90-day probation period anyways when you hire them, or at least you should put that in place. And if after 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, at any point you can fire them for whatever reason, if they just look at you weird, you could say bye-bye. Now, I wouldn't recommend that, but point is you have that safety net in place, put the budget aside and just test it. Because 9 times out of 10, you're going to be surprised at just how dumb you were for not making that hire earlier. Okay. Now, creative strategist, I'd probably put in the range of about, once you get to about 250 to 300K a month, it probably starts making the most sense. You could easily get to that part by yourself, which is a couple of video editors, if not way, way further. And to that point, I want to mention, with any phase, if you're scaling and it's working and there's no issues in the systems or there's no need or nothing hurts because you need more people, just continue. Just continue. You know you're going to need to hire when it starts hurting, right? When you need to increase your output of creatives and you're already doing a ton yourself and you're like, I really just can't do any more myself. Okay, great. Now you know you need to hire. But if whatever you're doing is working and you're scaling, continue with it until it hurts and then you'll have to hire somebody in. At that point, you know you need to hire. Okay? So I went over this one a decent amount. Now, I just wanted to make sure I threw in some of those tips and learning experiences that I've had for you if you're in this phase, because this is really a big learning curve or a new skill set you need to develop once you get to that 250K, 300K plus per month range, and you have to start making your first real hires, call it your creative strategist, a content manager, versus just like overseas video editors, graphic designers. You overthink it a lot. You debate it a lot. And you don't really know where to start. So in general, just know within this revenue range, your team will probably end up looking something like this. Now, to the point of phase 1 and phase 2 and phase 3, which we're about to get into, I also want to mention it's your business, right? Hire out whatever you want to hire out. Typically, when you're first starting out and you're not a good operator, hiring top down, like hiring the head of ops to then hire the team underneath them, or hiring a head of growth to then hire the marketing team underneath them, is probably the best, most optimal way to do it. But when you're first starting out and you're not a seasoned operator and you don't really know what good looks like for those positions, let alone how to do those positions yourself, I wouldn't recommend it. So instead, you're hiring bottom up, right? You're hiring the video editor underneath you, right? Then you're hiring a customer service agent under you. Then only after that, right? Maybe one gets promoted, then you hire underneath them again, etc. That's the easiest way to do it. Don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple. Now, last point I want to mention before going to phase 2 and phase 3, because I think it's very important, is because it's your business, you get to build this out however you want. And I would focus on taking stuff off of your plate. Every hire you make at the start should be to free up your time from low leverage tasks to higher leverage tasks, with the caveat being continue to do what you do best and that you enjoy. If you really enjoy writing scripts and doing the marketing, there's no need to rush to outsource that. In fact, that's probably why you're succeeding at the moment and getting to 100K per month or 200, 300, whatever it may be to begin with, because that's your quote unquote unfair advantage, or that's what you're arbitraging compared to anyone else in the market. That's your skill set or the reason why you're succeeding. So don't rush to outsource that. Instead, double down, hire under you and hire other things, whether it be in your personal life too, or in the business, to free up more tasks that you don't enjoy, that you're not good at, that aren't high leverage, so you can continue to double down on what you do best. Okay? At some point, obviously, it'll still make sense to outsource this, but nonetheless, you'll probably just move one totem pole above this, which you'll see in phase 2 and phase 3 being like a head of growth role, and still be heavily involved without you being the one to actually do the work. Now, with that being said, that is phase 1. Now, when you get to the tail end and getting close to the 400, 500K per month, you end up transitioning to phase 2, which is about 500K to $1 million per month. Now, once again, it's broad, and all of these don't happen at once. I gotta keep saying that, because you don't have to go from this and oh shit, I'm at 500K a month, I need to hire all these people. No, once again, as it hurts, as needed, build it out, and in general, just keep the structure in mind, and you could, build out how you want from there. So, at this point, you can see you're still up here. Now, typically, you're now not the head of ops. You're also not the one being the strategist, and you could also outsource the media buying. So, reasons being why. To get to where you are now, you're probably mostly involved with marketing. If you really enjoy the operations, stay in the operations. But typically, you'll want to end up hiring a head of ops. This is somebody who can just, I like to call it a glorified VA, right? A VA on steroids. Someone who could think for themselves, solve problems before they get to you, but just handle shit all over the business whenever it comes up. Ideally, you want somebody to take over everything on the operations side, logistics side, talking to suppliers, managing customer service tickets, managing the website, managing the VA, managing even the agencies at some points. So that way you could just really focus on doubling down the marketing and growing the business. Okay? Ideally, you never have to get involved with anything operations other than tracking, setting KPIs, and project management for the head of ops to making sure that he's doing what needs to be done and checking in to make sure the job is being done well, okay? So typically you then bring in a head of ops, and then he will then build out the rest of the team for you underneath him. For example, if you need another customer service agent, maybe at this point you need 2, maybe at this point you need 3, right? Or then he'll then end up hiring a website manager / dev. This is half, somebody to come in and manage the website, do theme changes for your promos, build out product listings, build out landers, and also a web dev to start helping out with CRO efforts and any other things you want to be testing on the product page. So that's a kind of 2-in-1 role that we like to do, or that's how at least we have it set up, which is a website manager / web dev in one. The same VA is probably there. You may have 1 or 2 VAs depending on how you run your business. You do lots of product research because you're a jewelry brand, you rip tons of SKUs, or if you're still one hero product, you may not need another VA at that point. Under agencies, you still should probably have the same Google, email, and SMS agency. And at this point, probably Amazon. If you get to 500K per month and you're on Amazon, you're probably leaving a lot of free money on the table. You know this because if you go to Amazon and search your brand name, if other competitors on Amazon are using your keyword, it's because it's making money and they're stealing these sales from you. So at this point, it starts to make a lot of sense to get on Amazon. What you'll find is very quickly with just a little listing optimization and some keyword ads on Amazon, you'll very quickly get it up to about 10 to 20% of your revenue, if not further, depending on your product and niche. And whatever revenue you're at, if you're at $1 million a month, that's 200K extra per month. That's a lot of money, and it's very, 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 very profitable on Amazon because your ads there are insanely high ROAS because of all the spillover that you get from your Facebook ads and your top of funnel marketing, which at this point you're spending a shit ton. So there's a lot searching for you on Amazon, and if you're not there, once again, you're losing the money. So at this point, you'll typically bring in an agency to bring on Amazon as well. Only caveat to that is actually getting set up on Amazon is very easy. Ship your product to the warehouse, set up the listing, blah, blah, blah. So you could do that part yourself. But when it comes to managing, split testing listings, split testing the images, launching new SKUs on Amazon, managing the inventory and fulfillment, and even running the ads, I highly recommend once again you outsource it. It's not worth your time. Get someone who knows Amazon to really focus on Amazon, and then put your time once again on doubling down on what's working on the D2C side. Okay? Now, onto the marketing team. At this point, you now have one strategist who probably has more experience and is now the quote-unquote senior strategist who's also training a new strategist or copywriter. Once again, when I say strategist, this is a creative strategist. This could be a creative strategist. This could be a copywriter. Doesn't really matter, right? Whether you call them a strategist or you call them a copywriter, it's either you're just hiring for more of the strategy skill set versus more of the copywriting skill set and then training them on either or. Right? So once again, when I say creative strategist here, this junior strategist could absolutely just be a copywriter, or this senior strategist could absolutely just be a copywriter because you have a content manager sourcing the content anyways, okay? And at this point, once again, you're still gonna be very heavily involved in managing both of these, which is why I have you managing both of them versus not just the junior strategist underneath the senior strategist, because at this point, you really haven't had a growth yet. You just need more people to increase your output of ads you're putting out, probably at this point across multiple channels now, etc. Okay? So, the senior strategist is hiring and training your new junior strategist to train them to get them up to speed with what works, to overall increase output. Ideally, once again, probably find a second or third hero offer for the front end. And for that, you're going to need more people and more briefs. Underneath them, you have 1 or 2 video editors, maybe 3 at this point. The graphic designer may have gone from, per project to part-time, depending on your output needs. And now you have that content manager who's still there. That way, once again, this content manager's role is to free up the time from your senior strategist and your junior strategist to give them more time to focus on briefs and creative strategy versus talking to creators, going back and forth, sending contracts, etc. Okay. Now, optional at this point is media buyer. You definitely don't need a media buyer in this unless you're lazy like me and you just want to surf scale and you also don't want to be in the ad account 24/7 and you also just hate launching all the ads yourself because it takes forever. Once in, you'll probably still be very involved in the media buying in terms of looking at the account, analyzing the account, etc. You'll probably be talking to this person every single day, if not more, making sure they're making the right decision, optimizing the ads necessary, etc. This hire is more so to come in to once again take off the low leverage task of simply launching ads in the account and then getting the data and sharing it with the team. That now goes on to the media buyer. But once again, this one here is absolutely no rush to do. You can get a VA to upload ads through some tool where you could bulk upload ads into Facebook, etc. So this is absolutely optional, this one. As you start expanding to more channels, let's say now you're on Facebook, TikTok ads, AppLovin, and Pinterest, then obviously the media buyer becomes a lot more needed because you'd be spending way too long uploading ads, let alone managing those channels every single month. So to summarize, once again, as you get into the 500K per month, up to the $1 million per month range, those key hires that you're gonna be adding on is probably an Amazon agency, a head of ops, a second strategist, possibly a media buyer, and then underneath the head of ops and underneath your marketing team or the strategist, any other more video editors, graphic designers, customer service agents, VAs that you need, okay? Once again, at this point, now that you have your first layer of management, right? You're managing the head of ops and they're managing the team under them. Your whole point now is to figure out where is the head of ops or where's the strategist wasting their time to get them and train them on how to hire to buy back some of their time. That way they can focus on higher leverage activities, right? And as you continue to grow, which we'll see in phase 3, it's just more and more of that, of trying to figure out where people need to save time to focus on the highest leverage tasks, and then getting the team all synced together, often to make sure that everyone's clear on the objective, what those highest leverage tasks are, and then just once again, overall making sure that on a daily and weekly basis, the KPIs are being hit and the focus is where it needs to be. And this is the structure that has achieved that for us. More or less, once again, we have things slightly different than this, but in general, this is going to be your most basic setup while keeping things very lean to get to the $1 million+ per month and beyond. Then that brings us to phase 3. $1 million per month to $3 million per month. And you can see now, compared to, phase 1, which is relatively simple, once again, this is just you. So this would literally just be under you. I just put you there as well, just to show what that'll end up looking like. But more or less, once again, when first starting out, you probably have the agency, you probably only have one agent, maybe one VA. This probably isn't there. You probably have one editor and one part-time graphic designer, which is a much simpler version. But when you get to 500K-ish, it'll end up looking like this. Then you can see we add a little bit more complexity here. And now there is a lot more complexity because now you have your first 2-layer management on the marketing side, right? We go from just you having to manage the creative strategist managing the video editors, to now you managing head of growth managing the strategist, and then the strategist working with and editing the video editors. Now, the hard part with this is you now are hiring for a more management/director role here. Without much output actually increasing at first, because you need to hire this person to end up taking, once again, the load off of these guys, or more so at this point, the load off of you to move up to focus on the higher leverage activities. But to do that, once again, you have 2 layers of management. And if this isn't done properly, then the output and quality of your output in terms of the marketing side, creatives, landing pages, etc., simply go down. So to not do that, we end up moving from everyone working together to now a pod structure. Reason being is if this is all mixed together, you have 4 video editors, 2 creative strategists, it's just going to get messy and the system and process isn't going to be clear. So now instead, the head of growth manages and directs the marketing team, given direction from you on the OKRs and quarterly goals that you need them to hit, etc. Under them, you have 2 separate pods, each with 1 creative strategist, probably 2 video editors at this point, and a graphic designer each, depending on, once again, how many statics you actually open and how well those work for you. The only caveat to this is the content manager. You probably still only need 1 for the most part, working with both to source content for you guys, etc. You probably don't need 2 content managers for each pod, unless you wanted to split this up by product line, right? Maybe this pod 1 is a supplement line, and pod 2 is a knee brace device line if you're in a health niche. Let's just say that was your hero product and they're expanding into supplements. So maybe you want to split up per product line. In general though, I prefer to have both pods working on the same products and making ads for both, because the creative strategists here versus creative strategists here all have their different ideas, and you want those ideas to be mixing up versus just have one separated out with the other. So once again, in each pod, creative strategist is managing multiple video editors. So it's the same setup we have here, right? Instead of them all working together, we essentially just split these 2 out and put each of their own video editors and graphic designers underneath them. This way, this creative strategist is only working with these editors, this creative strategist is only working with these ones, etc. And it's very streamlined, easy to manage, and very clear of who's doing what. Then the media buyer, at this point, you're launching a shit ton of ads, and you probably don't want to be doing that yourself. Same thing with managing budgets and the tons of campaigns, assets, and ads you're going to have live, or that you should have live if you're at this scale. And so the media buyer is going to be working with the head of growth very often to make sure the targets are being hit. And then the media buyer, when getting the data from the ad account, creative testing learnings, how last week's testing went, etc., is going to bring these learnings and share them to both the creative strategist. And then on the weekly creative meetings, the entire marketing team will be there together, because once again, it's still important that the learnings are shared across the team. The learnings of this creative strategist shouldn't be limited to pod 1, but those learnings also need to be shared with pod 2, or else they'll be testing the same shit over and over again and testing losing stuff, etc., and not doubling down as much as you should on the working things, right? If pod 1 produces a winning ad, pod 2 needs to know, that way they can double down, start creating iterations on that as well, and vice versa. So Having separated pods makes it a lot easier to scale that output. But once again, it's important that learnings are shared between both, which is why we have it set up like this. Then, more or less on the other side of things, it's the exact same. You have the head of ops, still with a website manager dev. At this point, probably a couple more customer service agents if needed. Probably at this point, 2 to 4 for the most part, maybe 2 to 6 if you're really trying to just have crazy low response times, etc. And probably still the same main VA, if not maybe 2. But more or less, this is the same. Point is, early on, we got rid of, by the 300 to 500K a month range, getting rid of managing ops. And at least that's what I did because I didn't enjoy the operation side. I like the growth strategy side. And so that way, once again, on the ops side, you only have to talk to and manage one person. That's taken off your hands from a long time before this point. There, then, you would then train them on how to hire, train the people, and onboard new people beneath them. That way, when it starts hurting for them, you know that they know how to hire properly and bring further people into their team. Okay? Last but not least, on the agency side of things, a couple changes here. One, at this point, you're going to want some consistent CRO, and you're going to want probably more creative. In general, you need to increase output further, and there's 2 ways you can do it. You can continue building out these pods, add a 3rd pod, or build out these pods further, or you could have this, and what lots of brands do is work with the marketing/creative agency on top of their in-house team to increase ads further, as well to just get more diversity into the account. In fact, lots of the biggest brands I know, they'll have a structure like this, and then they'll work with like 2, 3, 4 different creative agencies at once to get more creative diversity and more creative into the account from different people outside of the in-house team to bring in new ideas, right? So you can mix and match however you want. Now, once again, you'll probably still have the Google, email, and SMS, and Amazon as those core agencies that you've worked with for a long time up to this point. Now, CRO and landers/agency, at this point, once again, you can go in-house. We do an agency for some landers, but we also have the web dev working with the head of growth to create landers as well. So we have the in-house and agency just for more output. Now, once again, both of these, the creative agency and the CRO agency / someone who can build your landing pages, can be in-house instead. Now, once again, most brands go with the agency route first for speed and then transition to in-house after, or when prepping for an exit. Because when you want to exit the brand, they want to see your in-house team. That way they could come in and they don't have to rely on agencies, etc. You'll get a bigger valuation if it's all in-house. But once again, you'll still get a bigger valuation if your sales and profit are higher, which comes with speed of testing, right? Because for you to build a proper CRO team in-house or a proper team for the creative to bring in a lot of new people for a lot of new output, once again, that takes time, it takes training, it's a lot harder, and to get it up to speed versus to where an agency would be able to come in and do that for you off the rip, you know, it'll probably be anywhere from 4 to 6 months faster to end up getting the same result, right? And with a lot more headache, obviously having to go in-house. So at this point, typically you'll add on a CRO and landing page agency. Typically these are both the same, not 2 separate ones, and maybe 1 or 2 creative agencies to increase output further. Eventually, you get the systems, you see how they do. If they do a good job, you can then hire somebody to train from them, to see what they're doing, and then bring that over in-house as well. So that's how that looks like. Now, once again, phase 1, you're at 100K to 500K per month, more or less simple. As you get to the tail end of 500K, it starts to look like this. Then as the tail end of 500K per month, you end up having all these pieces in place. Once again, as you scale, don't rush to hire if there's no issues with your system or processes and it's working. When it starts to hurt, or you can't increase output and you know you need to, or you want to do consistent landing page testing because you know you need to do that to continue scaling and diversify the account, but you can't because you don't have the time, now you know you need to hire for these positions, and it'll look something like that in phase 2. Then you continue scaling, and phase 3, and once again, the focus now becomes you just need to double down even further. There's just a whole lot more moving parts, probably more than one hero offer on the front end. You're Amazon scaling, you have multiple channels now, a lot more tickets coming in, a lot more ops stuff that needs to be dealt with. You need to increase output even further, and do this all without losing quality and increasing output at the same time. So that's what I would recommend, or at least that's the route we went. Now, once again, the caveat being, I'm new to this. This is what I did to get to the point where I'm at. It's worked so far, and this is kind of what we have at the moment, and we're expanding some of these roles that we don't currently have in this exact format. So, if you don't like this, build out however you want. It's your company. You can do whatever it is that you want. My only recommendation is, once again, hire good people, and the training becomes easier. If you cheap out on the people you bring in to any of these positions, you're going to have headaches and headaches and headaches and headaches. And if you hire somebody and you find yourself hopping in to do their job, 1, test stepping back and training them, giving them the resources they need so that they could do the job for you. If that doesn't work, get rid of them. You need somebody better. Okay? There's no point in building out a structure like this if you're still the one coming in here and doing lots of the tasks that the head of growth should be doing, or lots of the decisions that they should be making. If you're still having to come in and solve problems in pod 1 and pod 2, even though that should be the creative strategist job, they're not good, or the systems, processes, and your training was lacking. Okay? The point of this is to actually give you freedom to, once again, do whatever you want with the time. Ideally, have time back to put that towards more higher leverage tasks. So this is all useful. But once again, if you fuck up the hiring, if you fuck up the training, and you don't know how to properly lead or manage a team like this, it's not going to work anyways. With my point being, don't rush it. Learn the skill set as you grow. And that is that. So if you found this useful, once again, free consulting calls, link in the description. Only do a couple of them because they're literally free and we will not pitch you. If you're interested, that's there. If not, either way, hopefully, if you're watching this and you're one of these phases, it was useful and now you have a bit more clarity of what you need to build out next for your team. So with that being said, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.